portal. We'll get to that. Brendan, thanks for your time. How big a pickup do you think this was, besides the obvious for Scott Drew and staff with Jeremy Roach?
Yeah, I think it's gigantic. I mean, you're talking about a player who shot 42% from three-point land last year. It's going to fit perfectly in Scott Drew's offense, especially the fact that Baylor's losing 4 starters from last year. And more than that, Roach is, he is a senior, experienced player. He's one of 2 remaining active players left for Mike Krzyzewski's final team. Led Duke to a Final Four, led Duke to an Elite Eight again this season under John Shire. So it's a gigantic pickup. I think he fits perfectly everything Scott Drew and Baylor wanted to do.
Now, obviously, their lineup is going to be a lot different, Brendan. They got to get something down low, but they're going to have no shortage of guards. And even if they lose somebody like Miro Leto, who could still maybe wind up in the portal as well, they're still going to have great depth there and can score. What do you think this Baylor team will look like offensively and scheme-wise next year?
Yeah, scheme-wise, I'm expecting it to be relatively similar. I mean, this is now 4 years running ever since Baylor won the national championship for the first time in program history back in 21 that the Bears have finished top 10 in Ken Palm's adjusted offensive efficiency ranking. So obviously this season with the three-point shooting, having so many interchangeable perimeter pieces, again, we'll see who else the Bears can add in the portal. There's some rumors, I'm based here in Durham, North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
North Carolina's been going after Jonas Adu from Tennessee. There's a lot of chatter that he's another Baylor target as well. So we'll see who else Baylor adds. But with the guards that they have coming back, bringing in a guy like Jeremy Roach, I would expect it to look very similar to the successful offense you saw this season.
If Baylor gets the young man from Tennessee, how much of a 1-2 punch would that be, even possibly others they're looking for too?
Yeah, he's terrific. He's a little bit of a different player than Eve Missy would have been last year. Missy, I would say, definitely was better defensively, a better athlete. But Adu, in terms of scoring on the block, in terms of having offensive skill, being able to make touch shots, he struggled in Tennessee's season-ending loss to Purdue in the Elite Eight. That was definitely not his finest performance. If you're a Baylor fan, that's not the game that I would go back and watch if you're scouting this guy. But in terms of offensive talent, he certainly brings it. His motor can run a little hot and cold. But again, that's why you're bringing in somebody like a Jeremy Roach, who, in addition to what he brings on the court, off the court is going to bring that experience. He's going to bring that veteran expectation. And he's sort of going to whip that locker room to shade. Not that it needs it, but that's the added benefit of bringing Jeremy Roach as well.
Brendan, given what's going on in the Big 12 and the transfer portal, how important was it for Baylor to make a move like this to keep pace with particularly Kansas, Houston, and Arizona, Arizona hasn't really made their big move yet either?
Yeah, Arizona hasn't made their big move yet, but obviously, Kansas has got to be one of the early front runners, in terms of portal winners so far this offseason, just the pieces they've added. And again, not done anytime soon. Kansas is going to keep adding, getting Uzan down at Houston. He is going to be a tailor-made fit, I think, for what Kelvin Sampson wants to do. So, yeah, this is the sort of move. And listen, I don't know how much of the Kentucky situation maybe sidetracked Baylor's, planning build or what Scott Drew's trying to do down there. But to finally come in to get a top transfer like this, I mean, Jeremy Roach was one of the most sought-after guards in the portal, and for good reason. I don't know that he will hit quite to the same extent that he did from three this year. It was a career best mark, almost 43%. But it's, again, you're talking about a guy who high efficiency, doesn't make mistakes. It is a perfect, malleable piece. That's the best part. Whoever else Scott Drew decides to add around Jeremy Roach, it's a pretty seamless fit. He's played on ball. He's played off ball. He can play with multiple guards. He can play as the lone guard. He can do a little bit of everything. So I think in that respect, obviously it was important, but it's a piece that sets you up well to then add more pieces.
Brendan, thank you very much for being a part of the show today on the Jeremy Roach decision to attend Baylor and what you do covering college basketball. Brendan Marks with us from theathletic.com on the heels of the interview with Jeremy Roach. We got a lot of college football to get to.